Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us. Jimi Ryan on the Get It Done podcast. Today I'm blessed to have Andrea Weisman, a icon agent at eXp Expansion Realty. Andrea, welcome to the Get It Done podcast.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So, we're super pumped to have you too. We want to give you all of your accolades. So, does just Rockstar Killer Real Estate Agent check every box for you? Or if you were to expand on what your accolades are, who is Andrea, what would you say?
Well, besides being a real estate agent, most importantly, I'm a mom. I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm a best friend, before any of that, before what I do for my career. So, but yes, so real estate agent comes second to everything else.
I love that answer. That's just so kick butt, because the truth is a lot of times people will use you because you can relate to me being a wife or a mom, and that's just excellent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I want to jump right into it. And what I like to do is tell people what the buildup is to this story. And I use Elon Musk as an example. So Elon Musk has a story from 1 million to $1 billion. And that's a great story, I'm sure. But I'm mostly curious to know what Andrea's 0 to $1 million story, what Elon Musk's 0 to $1 million story, the come up story. And generally we like to start out with where you're born. That's a really great place to start. So Andrea, where were you born?
I was born in Milwaukee. I spent a majority of my life in the Milwaukee area. And then in about, I want to say it was my 7th grade in middle school, my parents decided to move us to Oak Creek. So when people ask where I'm from, I usually say that I'm from Oak Creek. Nothing against Milwaukee, but I mean, I spent a majority of my life growing up in Oak Creek, graduated from Oak Creek High School. Some of my family still lives in Oak Creek. So I kind of danced around there for a while. And then as an adult, I found myself living out here in Pewaukee.
Okay, cool. So what was childhood like for you, Andrea? Did you have a perfect childhood growing up in Milwaukee and Oak Creek?
Who has a perfect childhood?
I know, I'm asking.
Well, I have an older brother and a younger sister. So, we had kind of that typical family story. Both of my parents, worked, and, one worked first shift, one worked second shift. So, it was kind of a revolving door at our house. But, we were always surrounded by family. Family was very, very important to us. So growing up, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. And, I was fortunate enough to have grandparents on both sides of my family. So I'm half Filipino, and family is everything. And so my grandma raised, there's 10 of us, I think, 10 grandchildren. And she raised us when our parents went to work. It was just what happened, and so not only were those my cousins, we grew up more like brother and sister. And then on my mom's side, every day when I got off that city bus after school, I went to my grandma's house, and my grandma was, the first person that I saw after school. We just, we had a very close-knit family. And, I was fortunate enough to have that.
What did your parents do?
So they worked in the factories. My dad worked at a factory, and just a couple years ago, finally retired from it. My mom worked in a factory, and she made paint rollers. And
okay.
So they were hardworking people, and, at one point in time shared car, it was what it was, but we made do.
That's really cool. And then, so you see your parents working their butts off. And then you're working at a factory. I must imagine that it's not all first shift, 9 to 5 type stuff. I'm sure that it's also second shift stuff, or maybe all. What was it?
I want to say one worked first shift, one worked second shift. And I want to say at one point in time, they might have swapped doing it, but very rarely were they home at the same time during the week.
So and your grandparents basically stepped in as really as parents. How much percentage of the time do you think that you spent with your grandparents?
A lot. A lot. I remember every morning before my parents like would go to work that we would get dropped off, and that's what all the cousins would meet up at grandma's house, and that's what we did.
Gosh, as a parent now, I mean, would you do that right now for your kids? You know what I mean? Just like, holy cow, what a responsibility. I mean,
yeah, but she was so good at it. That's just what she did. She just loved it.
It was just, we're going to grandma's going to take care of us.
Yeah.
That really is incredible. You're lucky to have that in your family, because not everybody does. What did you most appreciate them teaching you, given that I'm sure that they've given you your parents so much wisdom? What did you learn from them?
I think my biggest takeaway from that is really the importance of family. And my grandma on my mom's side, on my dad's side, she was the one who took in all the grandchildren, and she worked so hard during that time. Her kids would come home on their lunch breaks, and she would have lunch ready for them. And as soon as they were done with eating their lunch, she was already preparing the dinner. Like, she just constantly worked around the clock, around the house, and took care of us children running around everywhere, and like my mom's mom, she taught me the value of family and religion. And I those are the things I think that will always stick with me, is just her belief in God and just bringing it all back to, why we're here. And I think I'll never forget that. And unfortunately, both my maternal grandparents passed away when I was pretty young. I was just I don't even know if I was a teenager yet. I might have, yeah, I think I was just a teenager. But that sticks with me. It just does, like her love of God and family.
I mean, core values, principles, and you said this actually at least 2 ways, maybe 3 ways, that family is really, really important to you. And really, really, I guess you could say it a million different ways, but that's something that really sticks out to me when you say that. What did your grandparents teach you about family?
At the end of the day, they're all you have, and although they may judge you, I think they judge you in a different way, because we all have our ups and downs, and, in the end, they're still going to love you just the same. And I teach that to my son. He's 8. And he always, like, when he disappoints me and stuff, and, he gets really sad and hurt about it. But like, I always tell him, Mama still loves you. That's never going to change, So I think at the end of the day, they're all you have, and, they're always a part of you, no matter what.
And you're reminding your child of this. How do you show this to your child? Do you just tell them, or how do you, because you were describing your grandmother's just this hard worker, always like, hey, I got food on the table here, we're cleaning up after you here, always go, but also getting it done. How do you show that same love to your family, your husband, your kids?
Well, I think it's really important to make time for them. We always have words of gratitude for each other every day. I love you is so much more in our house. Like, when I like, even like with the words I'm sorry, like I tell my son all the time, like, those don't mean anything unless like there's action behind it. And I don't know, I think just words are so powerful. And I mean, we're always appreciating each other, telling each other how much, we appreciate you, or always, complimenting each other. And it's, when it's authentic, and it just is. Like, we just love on each other so hard in my house. We don't go to bed without saying goodnight, and everybody has to give each other a kiss. Every morning my husband leaves for work, We wave at him at the window every day, no matter what. The minute that, you know, one of us comes home, we're at the top of the steps greeting each other. I mean, because like I said, you know, this is all we have, you know. I mean, we have friends, we have, you know, coworkers, we have all that, but our core is our family. And
all the feels is the way I'm looking at it. I mean, here,
I love hard. Jimmy, I love hard. When I love hard. Here,
when me and you say hi, there's hugs involved. You know, I mean, like,
I would touch her. I always have to be like, can I hug you? Like, are you sure? Can I hug you?
And not everybody's that way. I know. I'm a hugger. I'll totally, like, I'm a hugger. And I mean, I don't know. It feels good. I don't know. It feels good to hug somebody and just like hold your hearts close to each other and be like, I love you. Like, it's just, I think it means it so much more. And I have to imagine in your family, if you're hi, how are you? Waving goodbye. You guys are hugging a lot, hugging hard.
We do.
So, okay, that's awesome. I love just starting right there because it's like, look, I'm a real person and I love these people. And generally along the way somewhere, people generally fall astray. And sometimes that's in high school. Sometimes it's way later. Did you ever have a moment like that where you just kind of like went in an opposite direction growing up, seeing as that, look, you don't see your mom and dad all the time. And I'm sure your grandma let you get away with something. I mean, they have to, you know, they just love you. They want nothing but like, here's some brownies and some, you know, cookies and like, here, just, was there any of that going on for you?
Yeah. I mean, and partially too, I was 11 when my parents split up. So I think that alone in itself is kind of just like, I don't want to say like you question like were we a reason of it or anything like that, but it was hard because then, you know, you go from seeing your dad, knowing even if he's at work, you know, he lives in your house, right, to him not being there anymore, or having to call on the phone or, you know, whatever. But my mom, I have to tell you, my mom was the hardest working woman I've ever met in my entire life. She did everything to keep everything as normal as possible. And we were fortunate enough, we got to see our dad, you know, every other weekend. And sometimes he'd come around, you know, after school and, you know, come say hi to us and stuff. But I think moving from Milwaukee to Oak Creek was really a hard thing for me because
were you also 11? Same age?
Yeah. So, you know, just it was hard. Just making a whole new group of friends, trying to figure out where I fit in. And I think that too, like going into your early teens for anyone, I mean, especially for girls, I think trying to figure out who they are and their identity. And then you get thrown into this loop of you're like, you know, Oak Creek is a really tight-knit community. So all these girls and these guys went to school together since they were in kindergarten, you know, and then here's the new girl, like, hey, like trying to figure out who she is. And I can tell you, and my mom will vouch for this, that I kind of got in where I thought I fit in and I adapted to that. So, you know, I became the girl who like dyed her hair with Kool-Aid and, you know, listened to music she would never normally listen to and smoked cigarettes and, you know, did all these things that like people were like, who is she? Like, that is not her. But, you know,
you were finding your identity.
You come back, right?
Right. I mean, but I mean, you were finding your identity. So my parents were divorced. I was 5, and I would argue, I think your divorce is terrible in any which way. But it's how you deal with it afterwards. And at least you got 11 years, you know, and until you were, and I know people that were divorced much later, but like, I got to imagine that the same thing is like, look, my parents getting divorced, huge change, but then also moving in a new school, man, that was rough for me. It was 3rd grade for me that I moved to have no, like I remember that now, today, 3rd grade, you know, coming in and not knowing everybody. So it seems like, okay, you just fell in with whatever crowd would accept you.
I did.
Did you go? And because you love hard, you probably adapted hard too. So you went pink hair and cigarettes.
I was all in, you know. But I mean, it's part of life, right? It's part of life. Then I went to high school, and I gotta tell you, I was that nerdy girl. Like total theater buff, you know. And hey, I'm here, and you know, it's all part of that story.
What I have to ask this too. I mean, this is kind of, I don't know. It's here, the Get It Done podcast. We don't really have rules, but why'd your parents get divorced?
You know, looking back on that now, we laugh now amongst all of ourselves. Like, how were you ever married in the first place? They were just two different people, and you know, they met each other in like the disco era, you know, at the nightclub and having a great time. And, you know, two good looking people got together, made beautiful children. But I just think that they just were two different people, just going in two different directions. And now, I mean, it's the most magical thing ever. They're both remarried. You know, I gained another brother out of it. They're cordial, and, you know, it's just, it is what it is. And yeah.
That's awesome, because that almost never happens, where it's just like everybody's like, look, we made it work and it didn't, we're splitting ways, but everybody still gets along. Was that always the case?
No, that was not always the case. I do have to say that my son, I think, really kind of put everyone's mind back into perspective. And, you know, he's the only grandchild. So, yeah. You know, he brought everyone together, and, you know, it's been wonderful. It's been absolutely wonderful. And I have the best relationship with my parents. My parents are the most amazing people, all of them. My step parents, in-laws, they're amazing.
Absolutely. It's just, it's the story of it, how it all comes together, falls apart, but comes together. Is just, that's such a magical thing to, I mean, suck up your pride and be like, and just be humble about it all. But how old is your son? When did that unity happen?
8 years ago.
So your son's 8 years old. Was it literally like at the birth?
I mean, it probably was maybe a little before that. But yeah, I mean, I was in a awful marriage prior to that. And I think once I kind of opened my eyes to the marriage that I was in, I think everyone then decided to be in my corner, and they just backed me and loved me and pushed me. And, you know, but yeah, I mean, Tanner really kind of, I think, just opened everybody's eyes.
Tanner, your son.
Yeah, that there was more than to life than to just have like these little stupid headbutts. It was pointless, you know?
Absolutely. People waste their times with that stuff all the time. You have so much I want to expand on. So I want to.
I knew this was coming.
I'm kind of just like, I'm kind of jumping around, but I want to talk about what was it that made you dye your hair Kool-Aid?
Because that's what my friends were doing.
Do they all have Kool-Aid hair?
They all had Kool-Aid hair. Yeah, everyone was using a different version of Kool-Aid. And that's what we did.
I was really jealous of the boys in school that had their frosted tips. Said the guy with zero hair today, you know? I mean, like, but I really was. Like, I always wanted to do that, but my parents wouldn't let, or it's something they wouldn't let me. It's just that they would have had to have paid for it and taken me to somebody to do it. And they're just like, no, there's just no way that was going to happen. Did you just do it yourself, or did you just?
Yeah, we would just, you know, my friends told me how to do it, and then, you know, I'd make a huge mess. And yeah, I would have, you know, black cherry Kool-Aid hair.
And then, okay, so you went that hard route, and then you went to high school, and you became a nerd. So I would assume no more Kool-Aid. Yeah. Describe what does nerdiness mean to you in high school?
I definitely was not popular. I was not popular in high school. And we had a great theater program, but people were like, if you're in theater, you're a nerd. Like, you're a nerd, you know? I definitely wasn't, the rah-rah cheerleader girl or anything like that. And I kind of kept to myself and that really small group of friends.
The theater crowd is a tight knit type of
Oh yeah,
crowd, for sure.
yeah, definitely their own little clique.
I'm glad I expanded on that because I was thinking like you're this math nerd with glasses on. I don't know why I'm just
I wore
envisioning.
glasses. I looked like Harry Potter for a little while. And then then I got a little cooler.
What did you do in theater? Did you get up on the stage? Were you singing? Were you dancing?
I did it all. Yeah, I fell in love with musical theater, and so as a freshman, I got to star in my first musical, and I was, I didn't have a big part, but I still was on stage and, was able to be a part of it. And I was, then I took roles of being behind the scenes, and then I got to be student director. And, I just, every aspect of theater I got to get my hands on, and I absolutely loved it. And I think I really loved it too for the people, because I think I found a group of people that I really could relate to.
Were you just like guard down, like fully putting your heart on display for everybody? Were you like actually like getting on the stage, like performing, or what was like the performance type of stuff for you? What do you remember the most about it? Like, was there any particular role that you just knocked out of the park, or?
I wouldn't necessarily say that, but like it was almost like I was able to let my guard down when I was there, and the audience was not there for me. It just wasn't, and it was just everything that was happening on the stage. And and each time that our theater season would end, it was like devastating, absolutely devastating. And my senior year, I actually didn't audition to be in it. I don't know. I just had, I don't know. My senior year, I just kind of still had a hard time figuring out who I was and where I fit in. And I didn't audition. And I will never forget my theater director coming into one of my classes. And she said to me, like, come out here. We are going to have you audition. And she took me out of class to have me audition during my senior year, because I didn't want to be a part of it for some reason. And I don't know why. And she was like, no, like, this is you. Like, this is you. And yeah, and then I was in it my senior year.
Okay, you did it. You listened to the reason.
I did.
Do you regret it at all? Or was it like something that's like, I'm so glad I did?
Yeah, no. And looking back on it, I am so thankful that she made me do it, because I know I would have regretted it. I can't imagine having gone through my whole high school career being that theater, being with theater, and then my senior year, like, not being a part of it. But I don't know what it was, but something, I don't know if it was my attitude or what, that made me think like I was better than being in theater. And she called me out on it.
No, I mean, good of her. What was that? I don't know what even her title would be. The theater director, what the theater teacher.
Director.
What was the theater director's name?
Her name was Kaz.
Kaz?
Kaz, yeah. And
Well, shout out to Kaz for inspiring a young girl to do it.
Even years later, I would run into her, and it was just like, it was always just like a thank you. Like, thank you for, bringing me out of my shell. Thank you for, for making me do the things that I was so fearful of.
That's so beautiful. I love that. And it's she's going to listen to this and hear that, and I'm sure it's going to warm her heart. So let's go to after high school. Did you go to college?
No. Did I attempt to go to college? Yes. So I was also a bit boy crazy right after I graduated high school. And
you trailed off with that. So
realistically, my parents didn't go to college. And did they want me to go to college? Probably yes. Could we afford to? No. But I knew that already coming out of high school, that wasn't a path that I I guess, handed or given. So I went right into work after high school, and I worked at Walgreens in the cosmetic department. That's what I did. And then I attempted, and I say attempted because my mom likes to make fun of me. I attempted a semester at Whitewater, and that didn't last long. I just didn't fit in Whitewater. Like, that just wasn't my crowd. I didn't like going to school. I just didn't. I didn't like going to class. I would have much rather, gone shopping with my girlfriends, or, hung out in our dorms or whatever. So I came home. And
So what did you go for? What was the?
I wanted to be a kindergarten teacher.
Really?
Yeah, I've always wanted to be a teacher. I love children.
knowing you at least a little bit, like when you say kindergarten teacher, I'm like, yeah, I could totally see that. Because here, the other day when I had my son with me, and he played with you nonstop. Like, he talks about you, like but you're so good with kids. So I mean, and my son's 3 years old. He moves 10,000 miles a minute and wants to tell you all about it. But like, you're just so patient and just so, I think, engaging with children, that I could totally see you being a kindergarten teacher. How could you want that and give it up?
I guess I didn't want it enough. And yeah, and I think I just let a lot of outside influence kind of steal that part of me. Yeah, and then I attempted again to go back to school. I went to MATC.
Okay.
And then I will never forget this. 9/11 happened. And I remember where I was, how it all happened. Everyone has their story of where they were. And I didn't know if class would be canceled. So I went, I was going to MATC in Oak Creek, went to my class, and on the door it said, class is canceled. And I was just like, I don't know. There was something about just seeing that sign that like struck me. And I never went back to school again after that day. Wow. I don't know. For me, it was like this, like, sign, like, you're not meant to be here. Like, you're not meant to be here. And so I went back into the workforce.
So wait, let's stay there for just a minute, because
Sure.
It's moments like these that, especially if you remember it, there's probably a story there, is generally what is the case. And for me, I'm a pretty spiritual guy. I look at a lot of like signs, for instance, like, what am I being taught right now by the reality that I'm in? What am I being shown here? And I look at it like, sometimes numbers do that to me. Sometimes it's just like something literally like looks at you, or like you see something and all of a sudden it's just like an epiphany, and like, oh my God, this is just what it was. It seems like there was that moment for you. What about the class canceled sign just was that stake in the ground for you? Just like, I know I can't do this anymore.
I don't know exactly what it was, but what I did do is I went home to my family, and I just knew I needed to be with them. And we picked up my sister from school, and just that day obviously was so emotional for everyone, but there was just something that just told me, like, go home, be with your family, go get your sister and stay home. And I don't know. And then I woke up, and, that obviously the next few weeks were super emotional for everyone, but I just could not bring myself to go back to school. And I just couldn't. And so, it was time for me to figure out what I was going to do. And the only route was, well, now you're going to go get a job, Andrea. Go get a job and figure it out. Yeah.
So then, okay, great. So I love that, because you're moving, dependence mode to independence mode, which is always a great time in anybody's life. It depends on how you look at it. But yeah. What was that for you? So what did you go run after? What was your first job after that? I'm sure it wasn't Walgreens Cosmetics.
It was at Southridge. It was at Southridge Mall. Yeah. I decided, well, you're going to go get a job. You're going to Southridge. You like clothes. So you're going to go work at a clothing store so that you can be around it and you can buy it. And so I worked at, it was Charlotte Russe.
Okay.
And it was just opening. So it was going to be the new, like, hip and trendy women's store, for the young, cute girl. And I worked there. And, I was an assistant manager there. And then my story kind of continued all through Southridge. So if you want to name a store, I probably worked there.
Well, absolutely. So you became an assistant manager. How old are you at this time? You got to be like, what, 21, 22, or are you even younger?
Not even quite. Yeah, no. Because I graduated high school when I was 17. So yeah, I was what, 19?
Wow. That's super young to be any sort of a manager in any sense. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you must have just loved the clothing and were just passionate.
And I obviously impressed somebody who thought who thought I had it in me to do that. And
were you teaching other people how to do it? And I guess what makes you good at that?
I think I was coachable, and I was trainable. And I think that was part of, they saw the ability in me that, they could train me and turn me into something, and that I was capable of being responsible for helping to, run a store and helping to train, the new employees, and obviously, trusted me with money. It was just one of those things. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
And that's at 19. That really is incredible. I mean, it truly is, to be, not only to be that person, but to have adults look at you like you're that person, I mean, I think that's just, it's incredible in its own piece. So let's go through the list. Where are all the places that you worked at?
I worked at, I don't know what this, I'm going to say it was Claire's. It was an earring store. And I worked there. I was also an assistant manager. So once I hit that first assistant manager spot, and it sounds bad to say, but I never wasn't in that position or higher. So I was never just an employee.
Got it.
Yeah. So I worked at one of the 1 hour photo places. I did that for a while. I worked at Sears Portrait Studio. I worked at the Buckle, Victoria's Secret. I was all over the mall.
Well, that's nuts. I mean, why? I mean, must have just been, you're probably at the stores, and I'm sure that, I guess I've never worked in a mall before. Is it kind of like all the workers know each other type of a thing?
Yeah. Everyone knew each other at these places. And I don't know that I ever willingly left places it was always somebody who's like, hey, we saw you, you should come work with us, and and that's just how it always happened. And I'll never forget, I worked at a place called Gadzooks, and I got this really weird phone call at the store. And at first I was kind of like, okay, why are you calling me? You're not asking me any questions about the store. And a guy said to me, I was in your store and I secret shopped you. And I was like, okay, that's creepy, but okay,
yeah.
Right? And he said to me, I know this sounds weird because you're in a women's clothing store, but we have a eyeglass store that is going to be opening up in Brookfield. And, we watched you interact with the clients the customers in your store. And, we secret shopped some of your employees, and we were wondering if we could talk with you. And I was like, I know nothing about eyeglasses. Like, what? You're going to tell me I saw eyeglasses? Well, I ended up working next door to the LASIK Vision Institute, and I sold the eyeglasses to people before they got LASIK. And so, that was a whole new thing for me too, was to then go from knowing women's clothing to then having to learn,
glasses. Yeah. Optical. So, but truly though, I can't imagine it being much different than, you're talking about 1 hour photo. I'm sure that's way different. Sears, Buckle, Victoria's Secret, Charlotte, these are all way different types of things. But it's ultimately
they all deal with customers, and they all are service.
Exactly. And it's kind of just like throw you in, you know, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So during this time, I'm assuming, I don't want to assume. When did you get married? First time.
So my first marriage, I met my ex-husband in 2003, and I was freshly 21.
Okay.
And I met him, but we did not get married until 2011.
Okay.
So we spent, the majority of my, 20s together. And and then
8 years.
bite the bullet and got married. And then Tiana was born the next year.
And then Tanner was born in 2012. Okay. So you were together for 8 years, and here, this is a big time in your life. You're working through all of these jobs. You're switching. What did he do? Just side.
Well, I met him at a tanning salon. He worked at a tanning salon. And he was also a salesman. He was a salesman, charismatic, and
It's just okay. So you're together then for 8 years, and believe me, we're going off the topic, but I this is a part of your life that just builds you totally. And there's a lot of failure, I'm sure, but that's really what we learn from the most. And maybe it's not failure. It's more of just like epiphanies. It's learning. And you're together 8 years, and you have Tanner. When is the point when you figure out, like, look, this ain't working out?
I knew immediately, actually, after having Tanner, that this wasn't going to work out.
Was it just stepping up to the father role? Expand.
Yes. Yes. And stepping up to being a complete family man, I think, too, for instance, let's just put this all out there. I had literally the day I came home with Tanner, instead of him staying home, he left me at home by myself and went to work and didn't come home until 9:30 at night. And I got this fresh new baby. And for me, that was just like, that kind of set the tone for me. Like, this is what this is going to be like, and unfortunately enough, he's still very much in Tanner's life. But for me, I wanted so much more. Because it's that whole thing, like, even though I had a good life, you want more for your child than what you had, right?
100%.
So I just knew that this was not going to head down the road I wanted it to.
I can totally relate. I love that. It really is tough to fill the shoes of father. It really is. It's one of the it's got to be the hardest job out there, with mother being right there with it. It's just being a parent, period. And it's really tough, especially when it's just one-sided, when there's one person doing all the, you can't possibly do it all yourself. And if you are, you're discounting something, like you're just like, so, and especially being a new mom, the first days are crucial. You really got to be a part of it. So you figure out, like, look, this ain't working. But you just got married, like you're 2 years into marriage, 10 years as a relationship, thereabouts. What was the final straw? What finally made it where we're parting ways, we're going in a different direction?
I stuck it out until 2015. And we then celebrated our anniversary. And the day after our anniversary, in my mind, I said, I'm not doing this anymore. Not doing this anymore. And, at the time I was working at a salon, and I went out with some of my girlfriends after. And that night I said to my best friend at the time, like, I'm done. I went home and I just said, I'm done. And there was something so empowering about me saying those words that I was like, try to call my bluff. Try to, because I'm done. And was I scared? Absolutely. I was terrified. But it just, I knew that I was holding on for the wrong reason. I was holding on because I did not want to break up our family. And
That's
I just
real.
want Tanner to have to experience that. But then I started to realize that the longer I held on, the more I was probably going to hurt Tanner.
Right.
You know?
So you stepped out and you said it out loud, and then you went through with it. I mean, that really is, it's an empowering, that's just got to be such an empowering point in someone's life.
It was liberating.
I mean, you want to scream it from the rooftops type of a thing.
Yeah.
And so I know a little bit of your story this year in particular, just because I follow you on social media. So, so this particular year is a big year for you. So you end up, did the divorce go smooth afterwards with you? What did you let him know and it was like it just happened, or like?
Yeah, you know, I can't really say that. I mean, there was obviously pushback, but you know, when he knew my mind was made up. So it was like, okay, what next? Like, what next? So, you know, we had, you know, purchased our home right when we got married. So we have this home now that, like, we got to sell because
And you're married, yeah.
I don't want this home anymore. I can't afford this home by myself. And, like, you know, I want to start fresh. So that was, I think, then our next step, like, okay, how are we going to do this? You know, so then it got, you know, the ball rolling. We got our house listed, you know, and yeah, and we were approaching the end of 2015.
So this is the end of it, and so your divorce wasn't even final. I know we're going to tell the story, and I'm alluding to it a lot to anybody who's listening. But
so May of 2015 is when I officially said I am getting divorced. And
okay.
So, you know, why they make it so easy to get married here in Wisconsin and so hard to get divorced, I don't know. What they do.
I know. It's 6 months, so you have to wait the 6 months. So
you
that's
do, and then you gotta figure it out.
Right, and you only find it out when you're doing it. I know. I'm as a loan officer, I'm the first person that's telling people this, that we're getting divorced and we got to sell our house and I need to get a mortgage pre-qualified. It's like, well, you have to wait 6 months, and like, what? No, I don't. I'm just going to go file the paperwork, and just like, it sucks that I'm the why do I have to be the person saying that, you know? But so you get started with it, and what happens from there?
You know, we got our house under contract. We continued.
Who listed it? Who listed it?
Actually, a family friend did. And,
okay.
Yeah, and a very trusted family friend did it. And, you know, it was a really amazing experience, I have to say. And
what was her name, if you don't mind?
So his name's Lou Hero.
Okay.
He's my friend David Hero's father.
Okay.
And he was amazing. And, you know,
That's
we get
cool.
the contract, get it ready to leave. You know, my ex-husband moves. And then I said my final goodbye to my house. December 9th, 2015. And I even took a picture of it saying goodbye in my cute little house and, you know, wishing the new buyer, you know, all the love. And I found out that she was a new single mom moving into this home. And, you know, it was a great little place. And yeah, my parents, fortunately, my mom and stepdad had asked Tanner and I to come live with them during that time. So that we could get back on our feet. And, you know, I made the promise to them that, you know, I would try to get my act together so that Tanner and I could get our own place. But, you know, they willingly opened their doors to us. And so, you know, over the weeks of us, you know, moving out, we were able to put all of our stuff there. They created a beautiful space in their home for us. Tanner and I had a great place to live. And I said goodbye to my home on December 9th, 2015. And then went home, decided to go out, put Tanner to bed, and yeah, then my life changed. I was no more than 2 minutes away from my parents' house, and they always say that, you know, if something like this is going to happen, it usually happens close to home. I was hit.
Well, hang on a second. So was this the same day as this December 9th? It's literally the same day. So you have sold your house. You have, just to set it up, you've completely sold your house. you've parted ways with the ex-husband. You're completely done with this. You're moving in with your parents, you and your son. Your son is with them. You get there, you're there, and now you decide, hey, I'm going to go out.
Yeah. I got to go out. I got to just take a break. My mom was like, yep, go ahead. I got Tanner. I'll put him to bed. I was going to go meet a friend out in Bayview. And I was driving.
What kind of car? What kind of car?
A Toyota RAV4.
Okay.
And it was like 4:00 in the afternoon, totally fine. It's December, but like totally fine outside. And I pull out, start driving, and it's on out here in Pewaukee, that just the 2-lane highways, so you only have one car going this way, one car going this way.
What road?
And
what road was it?
I don't know. I don't remember the exact letter. It's right where Harkin is. So the big Harkin, the Waukesha Airport, that road. My parents live right on. So I'm driving down it, and I'm like, la, 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 la. And mind you, I'm going to tell you, I was just about to light a cigarette because I took up smoking.
Okay.
From the stress. Never again. And I got hit head on by a driver coming the opposite way. And my life like moved literally in slow motion, and it probably happened within a couple seconds of everything. It probably was only a couple seconds, but.
So you're lighting your cigarette, you're driving down the street. How fast are you going? Maybe
30 miles an hour, maybe 25, 30 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's about what it is right in that area. And then, okay. And so you're in your lane, you're just fine. And I would have to assume you're lighting your cigarette. Do you look up and see what's happening, or
no? I lit my cigarette. I would lit my cigarette and I'm driving already.
Oh, you already got it lit. Okay.
And and I saw him. Like I was driving and I saw him, and I thought, maybe, people tend to do that a little, he's going to see me, right?
Yeah.
I swerved as hard as I could, but there was no stopping this ginormous car that was coming at me, and he hit me. I went a couple times spinning in that car, threw me into a field that was just trees, and then that's all I really remember. That was the last I remember. And then I awoke to an older gentleman, like trying to he was holding my hand, and because my windows blew out. I blew out the entire side of my car. And he was crying, and I was like, it was such an out of body experience. Like I feel that I was able, looking down on myself as it was happening, because it was hot, and it everything just hurt, and I was screaming, but there was nothing coming out. And, this man's holding my hand, and people are running. And it was just this a scene from a movie that you only see on a movie, but you're in it. And he just prayed and told me to stay with him, and that it was going to be okay. And, a woman came, and, I gave her my phone, because all I could move was the right side of my body. I could not move anything on the left side. And I gave her my phone, and I said, call my mom. And she called my mom, and she said, your daughter's been in a car accident. Don't come, because we've already called the ambulances. What parent wants to see their child like that, right? And there's nothing that they can do, right? So I just remember the horn was honking, and it wouldn't shut up, and it just smelled so bad from the airbags exploding. And that's all. I will never forget just the feeling, just hot. Everything just burned. And they used the jaws of life to get me out. And that's when I remember really coming to it. Took me to Summit, because they had to take me to a trauma one. So my choices were
Summit Hospital in Oconomowoc.
Yeah, it was either Freighted or Summit.
Yeah.
I had to go to one.
Yeah. So right in the middle.
And the funny thing is that I was actually going on a date. I was going on a date. That's where I was headed. And I'll never forget this. I said to the ambulance guy, take my phone, call my sister, have her call my date and tell him I cannot come. And she called my date and said, like, she's been in a car accident. She can't come.
I mean,
that was my mind. That was where my mind went. Like, oh my gosh, I'm meeting someone. I have to, like, tell them I'm not coming.
you're literally in the ambulance. Like, you look like you're probably half dead, I bet. And like,
Yeah.
I can't make the date. I'm sorry. By the way, did that date become your now husband? I have like, so okay, wasn't meant to be. I mean, it wasn't meant to be. So okay, I want to ask too. Was it a drunk driver?
No, they think that he was texting. They're pretty sure because they checked his text and he had just sent some texts. So he it was inattentive driving and he was texting. Mm-hmm.
Wow, how terrible! How fast was he going?
They said it was probably about 40 something miles an hour because he did have people in front and behind him who were at the same, and those are the people that actually stopped.
Wow, that's just nuts. I'm sure he made it out just fine.
Oh, he made it out perfectly fine.
Yeah.
He made it out perfectly fine. Never came to help. He didn't come to help. Yeah, he stayed in his car.
Okay, so you get taken to Summit. What happens?
That was all kind of a blur, but I ended up with 6 broken ribs, a broken right wrist. I hyperextended all of the ligaments in my left hand, so I ended up with 2 casts. I found out that I lacerated my spleen, which didn't realize how severe that actually can be when you got internal bleeding like crazy.
Jeez.
Yeah, until after. They don't tell you that stuff till after. Yeah, I mean, who knows how much glass I swallowed. I just remember I kept complaining that, like, I have glass in my mouth. I have glass in my mouth, So yeah, I spent some time in a cozy little hospital.
How long did you spend? So look, your body's just broken. And after that, I mean, the road to recovery it's short or it's long. I mean, what was that road for you?
Months. I didn't spend months in the hospital. I spent, I want to say it was pretty close to a week. I was in the hospital, but months of recovery. I could not fend for myself at all. It literally took 2 people to do everything. Get me in bed, take me out of bed, put me, in the bathroom. My mom had to shower me. I'm 30 something years old and, my mom is showering me. And, and yeah, it was just kind of like, again, it goes back to family. Like, they were there and I could not have done it without him. Like, it just would not have been happening at all, and then to try to still be a mom.
Right.
And I mean, but I very much know it happened for a reason. And it really, really forced me to slow down and kind of reevaluate life. And I will say it forever that I didn't get taken. God kept me here for a reason, but he gave me that wake up call to put things back into perspective, slow down, appreciate what I have, and to set a new goal in life for myself and my son.
What to expand on that? What does slow down mean to you? What were you doing, and what did you learn from that?
I thought I knew everything. I didn't want to listen to anyone. I thought I knew everything. And, in the course of my marriage, I ended up in thousands of dollars of debt, lived way beyond my means. It's that saying, like, I was trying to keep up with the Joneses. I wanted to put on this front that I had this beautiful, miraculous life. So, spending money, I was just reckless with everything. And it really grounded me back to, like, what was really important. And
I love that. That's gold. What change in your life came from that moment? Because this is a paradigm shift. Like, you were looking one way, and I need to slow down. I need to figure out what's important. What did you identify as the most important things for you?
It was kind of this whirlwind, of everything happening. I was still in the midst of a divorce at this time too, so I think it gave me a new perspective of what my future self was going to be and what my future life was going to be. And I spent all of my energy being the best mom to Tanner that I could, because, unfortunately, I say this to my mom all the time, like, looking back on, the 3 years that, I was married, I wish I could take that all back. And just because I don't know that I enjoyed those moments, and I don't think I lived in the moment. I didn't. I was always living for that next thing, and I'm never present, ever present. And it really forced me to just be here, be present, enjoy it. And I mean, because tomorrow's not promised.
Yeah.
Not.
I mean, it's difficult to be present, especially for people that are high achievers, or people that are really passionate and strong-willed on stuff. You're either thinking about the future and you're anxious, or you're thinking about the past and you're angry. And it's just hard to get into that niche of, I'm present, I'm right here, I'm right now. But it seems like that's totally what you did, which is just that's inspiring to people, because look, a lot of people have setbacks like this. Some people never recover. And it looks like, I mean, from the sound of everything I know about you today, it looks like you totally pivoted and just went in a different direction. So let's expand on that. So you're making these changes in your life. These things are already happening. They happened. Now, where do you go from here?
Well, I mean, I guess I think it was a humbling experience, because, at the time I was working in a salon, and to go, from making the income that I did to then, being bound to a bed for, months, and then having to go to, all these physical therapy appointments, and, just, it really kind of, I was like, okay, what's next for Andrea? What's next for Andrea? And I would always tell my mom, like, oh, no one's gonna ever want to date me, because, like, who's gonna want this divorcee who, who went through this traumatic car accident, and, she's got a 3-year-old kid, and blah, blah, blah. My mom was like, whoa, slow down, killer.
Right?
Down, right?
That's great.
Yeah. And I was like, okay. So I think, and I will forever be grateful for this. My mom said to me, Andrea, let's start a Match account. Okay. And I was like, shut up. She's like, no, let's do it. Like, let's do it. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. Right. So because you see all these silly things like, oh, set up your Match.com, eHarmony, blah, blah, blah. Whatever.
Right.
And I thought, well, I'm not working right now, but I'm not completely disabled. I am to but you know what? I could talk to people, right? Match account, and you know how that probably goes. It's like every creepster you could possibly ever imagine is in your inbox, right?
Right.
And I was doing it to have fun, like, because I was like, I'm homebound. I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to make friends, whatever. And I met my husband.
That's amazing. I'm really happy that this ends this way, and it doesn't ends up with like all the creeps in your inbox type of a thing. So that's beautiful. How do you actually sort through all the crap?
I had really great conversations with people. I didn't exchange number. I was like, if you're going to talk to me, you're going to talk to me through email. And to be honest, I had great conversations with a lot of people, but there was just something about Andy and the way that he was super, he was sensitive to like my what I had going on. He knew I was, going through a divorce. He knew I had been in this car accident. He just was really like real. And there was not anything that he was like, people want to say, like, oh, he was saying things to impress you, but like, he still is the man that he was when I talked to him. And I could see that this was just somebody who really wanted to get to know me, didn't care like what baggage I had, you know, and it just, I don't know, it just happened, and it happened, and I'm glad it happened, and here I am.
So, all right. So you meet the love of your life on Match.com, which is super cool. Like, it's just like,
I never went on any other date but him.
That's really crazy.
First date.
What was your first date like with him? I'm fascinated by this type of stuff. So like, cause you have to be thinking like, is this guy even real? Like, am I meeting like an 800-pound guy and all these pictures are different? Is he even a guy? You know, I mean, like, so what was that like?
Well, I purposely, he had asked me where he wanted to go, and I knew, you know, I'm meeting some strange person. I'm going to go somewhere where like it's very familiar and people actually know me, so that if they see me, they can come say hi to me. And, you know, if I need to like give them a look, like they can come help me. So I actually chose Cafe Benelux because I had worked, I was working at Neroli Salon and Spa, which is next door to each other. And I knew the wait staff and whatever. And I just remember when I walked up to him, he was exactly who he looked like what the pictures were. And like we gave each other a hug, and the first thing he said to me was, "Don't make this weird." And I was like, yes. And like, it just totally was like, yes. And it was just a magical date. Like it was hours. Our date lasted hours because it was so easy. And
that's so cool.
Refreshing just to meet somebody that like, we were on the same wavelength. I didn't feel that I have to impress him. And
he already knows all your dirt.
Yeah, I mean, like, like my Match picture had my child in it because I just figured if somebody is gonna date me, they're dating my child, and we're a package.
Right.
And so you might as well know that right away. Like,
absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, and that literally is how we got started, and we never ever turned back. And
so cool. So let's fast forward a little bit. Your Andy, he has a daughter or a boy, or did you guys have a child?
No. So Andy came with nothing.
Okay.
Meaning like he was Andy. He self-sufficient, go-getter, businessman.
Cool.
He made room in his heart and his house for us.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, what an amazing guy, Andy. I want to go, you know, meet him on Match. I want to go email him, you know. No, that's really cool because it's just like, look, you went through all this hardship, and like, you almost can't call it coincidence, you know, that it all just happens like this, and it just like works out. And so during this time, I'm getting to real estate at some point, I promise you. Yeah. Like, my goodness. Yeah. Nobody starts out saying like, hey, I want to be a realtor. I want to sell real estate. Nobody's a little boy or girl in school saying that. When did that happen? Was that at around this same time, or when did you actually pull the trigger and become a realtor?
So actually in 2007.
Okay.
2017, sorry.
I was going to say 2017, okay.
2017, because, you know, I had spent almost 14 years working in the salon environment, and, you know, I worked for a very premier salon and spa, and, you know, I was making a decent living, but there was nothing else that I could do. Like, it was one of those things where I put myself in this box, like, Andrea, you're a manicurist, you're going to be a manicurist for life. And that's what I told myself all the time. Like, you are a manicurist, and that is what defines you. And being a manicurist was so much more to me than just making somebody pretty and doing their nails. For me, it was that connection. And after a while, like, that's draining, because it's hard to like just shut yourself off and not take in all that energy that right. somebody, and then physically touching them. So like, I'm physically taking their energy, and that just became too much after a while. And, you know, I had said to Andy, who was my boyfriend at the time, you know, I can't do this anymore. And he said, don't. Like, what are you waiting for? Like, what do you want to do?
That's awesome.
I said, you know what? I don't know. And he's like, well, that's not a good answer. Like, that's not a good answer. And I was like, he's like, think about things that made you happy. And I said, you know, as bad as it was, the situation that I was in, I loved being a part of selling my house. Like, I loved the process. I loved staging. I loved all of that. I loved, you know, the paperwork and just seeing how it was negotiated. And he said, well, what are you waiting for? And I'm like, I'm not going to be a real estate agent. What are we talking about? And he was like, why not? And again, God stepped in. No lie. Went roller skating in April. Broke my ankle. Homebound. Just signed up for my real estate classes. Banged that whole thing out in the time that I was homebound and got licensed. God did it to me for a reason.
I really love that. I just love how you recognize that it wasn't circumstance, that like, look, I had to break my ankle, you know, I had to go roller skating and fail on that. But also too, you have a great support system with Andy encouraging the heck out of you to go for your dreams. And truly, not a lot of guys are like that. I mean, truly, and not a lot of people are like that, really. It's not even guys. It's more just like, even significant others can a lot of times hold you back from your dreams and your passions and what you really want to do. And sometimes it's not like it's bad. Like they think they're looking out for you, you know, and like, look, I don't want you to fail at this, but he's just totally encouraging you to go for it. And then you do, and then this all happens and you're like kind of forced to do it right away. So what happens after that? Do you pass your license, and what is it like? Do you just...
Then I'm like, now what? Like, okay, so I'm a real estate agent. Like, what do you do? And
right.
I was fortunate enough that I had followed some people on social media and kind of watched their stories. And, you know, I got aligned with some people who, you know, who told me their stories. And I was like fangirling over people, like, oh my gosh, I need to be you one day. And I was brought on and my start was at Keller Williams. And I'm very fortunate for that. You know, Keller Williams has a really great structure. Obviously, they're a very well-known, you know, real estate brokerage here, very successful teams. And I kind of just winged it. I just winged it when I went into it. And, you know, you kind of have to, you know, and I found success pretty quickly because of my salon background. And I made all those beautiful relationships. And, you know, my first clients were clients of mine from the salon.
Wow.
And, you know, they then trusted me to help them find their home.
Did you think that at the time that, like, look, I'm just doing nails, I'm a manicurist, and they're trusting me with real estate? Did you ever think like that? Or was it like, no, I've got my license? Yeah.
Absolutely. Because I thought, like, I'm a manicurist. They only know me as a manicurist. Like, how are they going to trust me, you know, making the biggest investment of their life? You know, they're going to trust me to represent them and put all this money into it, you know? And yeah, I kind of went with it. And then the momentum started to pick up and I was like, oh, like, all right. So then I'm getting strangers, you know, who are, you know,
right.
trusting, getting people telling, you know, and it just kind of went from there. And yeah, and then I, you know, a year ago was able to find EXP and I haven't looked back.
And you already have made it to icon status, which is
my first year with EXP. Yeah.
That's truly amazing. That's just such a great thing. And you know, this podcast isn't just about real estate and mortgage loans. It's more about just how you got to the point that you are. So how do you think your story leads you to being an icon agent at EXP?
I know I was here to serve, and I'm here to serve people, and that's what I do. You know, me helping someone find a home is way beyond that, way beyond them putting them in a physical home. You know, these relationships, I absolutely treasure. I absolutely treasure the relationships that I make with these people. I get to be with them through all walks of life. You know, divorcees, you know, buying their first home, expanding because they're having children. You know, the older, you know, older couples who are now downsizing because their children have gone off. Like, they trust me with that part of their life, and I am so grateful that I'm able to be pulled into that part. And you know, it's, people can say like, yes, do we do it for the money? Absolutely. Who doesn't want money, right?
Right.
But I am so fulfilled knowing that I was able to serve someone. And that's just, I know that's why I went through what I did to get to where I am now. And like, who would have thought that like me closing the door on my home, getting in a car accident, and now I serve everyone and I buy them their home. You know, it's just, yeah.
It's super powerful. It's such a great story. I really love it. So I want to be super respectful of your time, and I have some questions that I'd like to ask everybody that comes on. I'm gonna run through. So first one is, do you feel like you ever got a big break?
I feel like I ever got a big break. I mean, I feel like we all have, but I honestly, like, I don't want to say like it was like a big break, but I'm just telling you, like, I don't want to be defined by like my story, but I know that that's what it was. That if that story did not happen and I was not a part of that, I would not be here at all. And, you know, my perspective on life wouldn't have changed. I can almost guarantee you that I would still be this reckless person. I guarantee you.
So would you credit it more to the first relationship you have, or would you credit more to the car crash?
The car crash.
I bet.
And my husband, my current husband.
I mean, it's not just one thing. It really is the whole thing. And I like to dig a little bit deeper.
But no, December 9th, 2015, I think was that pivotal point in my life. And that's where, as bad as it was, I got a new chance. And that was it.
Your big break was a new chance at life, having gone through all the failures and mishaps and whatever. That's a really great answer. I love that. Yeah. Was there ever a time you felt like giving up?
Always. I think that's a loaded question. That's super loaded question. I think, you know, especially being in real estate, I mean, my goodness. Yes. I mean, and I've gotten better with changing my mindset. And I have to tell you, I have aligned myself with the most amazing, amazing people and mentors. You know, Jesse Garcia and Lisa Marie, like, I seriously, and Corey Talaska, they have my heart. They have really pushed me and made me not give up. And I have learned to welcome help and not try to always do it by myself. And that's a big thing for me, because I finally have given myself the permission to open myself up to others and you know, take the help. Because I'm a giver. I don't like people doing things for me at all. I would much rather do it for them, but I've learned to kind of let that down and get mentors, because I don't know everything. and I don't want to know everything, because, you know, I mean, that's the great part of life, is that constant learning.
I think it comes down to pride. I struggle with this myself, and I identified it in myself as pride, is that we're too proud of ourselves to ask for help. Like, no, I'm going to put on my Superman cape and I'm going to go get this done. I'm going to go do this. When in reality, like, you know, you're going the wrong, you got to ask for help. And we've had Jesse and Lisa on the podcast, and their story is just pure fire. And I can see how they would really push you to and motivate you to, be that person to ask for help. Like, no, come on, you can't do this yourself. Come on, all of us, let's go do it. And it's nuts how you guys are aligned too with family being number one. I can just totally see them helping you every step of the way. That's the fire answer. Love it. In perspective too, you are an icon agent, a accolade not all agents get. And most agents don't get it. This is a tough business. If you were to do it all over again, what would you change?
What would I change? 2021 is going to be a big year for me. I'm going to tell you that, because I kind of flew by the seat of my pants. And I think anyone right now will still say, like, yes, Andrea, you still do that a little. I did. I flew by the seat of my pants. But for me, business-wise, I'm really focusing on structure, allotting time to do things, because I just I got it, and I think in real estate, we have that rise and that fall. We have that high. We're like, yes, I got all these things. I got all these contracts, and then we hit it.
Right.
So celebrating my little wins, which you should do, celebrating them, but then still keep pushing a little further. And I think for me, I celebrated too long, and then it was done, and I had to do it all over again.
Right. So if you were to do it all over again, you would say, be more consistent, add structure right away. And that's,
and ask for help.
and ask for help. Those are three. Money. That's just money. That's exactly what people need to hear. And that's awesome. So, okay. My segue for the last one, I didn't like as much. I like this segue a lot better. And it's the same. It's kind of the same setup. You're looked at, Andrea, as someone, people want to be like you. They want to be an icon agent. They want to have this type of, servant leadership. Like, hey, I love my job. I get to help people buy their house. I'm Lou Hero. I'm the guy that's making a tough situation, difficult situation, enjoyable. And in specific regards to anybody looking to be more like you, what advice would you give to someone looking to get it done?
Make mistakes and be okay with it, because, I like you said, it goes back to pride. Like, we always want to be right. We want to know everything, but it's okay to make mistakes. And because that's the only way you're going to get it right. Consistency, practicing what you preach. I'm a mentor. So, I'm a mentor with EXP. And I want the people that I'm mentoring to have it as easy as possible. I just say, like, you have to make mistakes, you have to learn, and you have to be coachable, because pride aside, if you're not coachable, we're not going to get anywhere.
I love it. Be coachable. I 100% agree. It's one of the hardest things. Pride's hard to suck up. It's hard to ask for help. But if you do it, it's ultimately the most fulfilling thing. And to give it out to other people too, also very fulfilling. Great answer. I want to thank you, Andrea, for coming on. From the bottom of my heart, I really love your story. I love that we got the chance to expand on it here. And to anybody that's looking to connect with Andrea, how would you like people to connect with you?
My Facebook, Andrea Weisman, EXP. I am very active on my social media. So you can find me on my Facebook. My Instagram is going. Hey, search Andrea Weisman, EXP on Google. I'll pop up. I'm there.
That's great. And we're going to put all the links in there. So if you want to connect with Andrea, I would agree. Facebook is definitely the best way to connect with Andrea. And she is always posting. Great person to follow on social. So beautiful. Thank you again. This has been the Get It Done podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that you listen to podcasts. And if you want to support the show, if you like what you've heard, please do us a favor, tell a friend, write us a 5-star review, hit that subscribe button. All those things make a huge difference in helping us reach more people. Thanks, Andrea, for coming on.
Thank you.